My friends, I remember some years ago I was in a certain city conducting some evangelistic services, and I was asked to speak to the high school students. It's the sort of thing I greatly enjoy, too. It's been my pleasure to speak to them in practically all the states in the Union and a good many foreign countries, too. And young people are always interesting to me. If I get where young people run from me, I'll figure there's something wrong with me. You know, you don't have to get old in your heart. Your face may get wrinkled, the fingers of time may pinch wrinkles all around your eyes. And your shoulders may droop on the weight of your years, but you don't have to get old as far as your heart's concerned. I've known many lovely old people that had such understanding feelings and such understanding heart. I've always said that if the students in Bob Jones University, these wonderful young people, get where they don't want to see me coming and run away from me, I'll figure there's nothing wrong with them, but there sure is something wrong with me. So I enjoy young people. I like to talk to high school students. I love little babies. The sweetest music the world's ever heard since the morning stars sang together is the laughter of a little child. Isn't it such a pity that people come into this world so pure and good and innocent? And so lovely, all of them. All little babies are sweet. Isn't it a pity how they develop weaknesses and evil propensities, and so many of them go astray? But every soiled dove of the underworld was one time a little innocent baby in some mother's arms. And all the criminals behind bars and men who have gone to the electric chair were little babies one time, and sweet little babies too. So I love babies and young people. And I was in this high school, and they were such snappy children. They had so much pep, and their laughter was so musical, and every little thing I'd say, they seemed to get it. And the close of the exercises, the principal of the high school said, "You know, one of the most awful tragedies that ever happened in this school last year, just before the school closed." Said, "We had a girl here, she was a fine Christian girl, a beautiful girl, very attractive." And said everybody loved her. She was the most magnetic girl you ever knew. And such a devout Christian, and she didn't do what the other girls did. She didn't smoke. She didn't go to wild necking parties like some of them did. She was decent and straight. She had standards. And you know, there's still folks that have standards. But one of the tragedies of Bob Jones University, one of the saddest things I know, is that we've been criticized more for our standards of decency and respectability than we have for our orthodoxy. I know some evangelical people, supposed to be evangelical Christians, that criticize Bob Jones University because it has standards of discipline. We've never sent a girl home in disgrace to her mother. No girl ever left Bob Jones University and went back home to her mother in shame and dishonor because of her sins on Bob Jones University campus. We have standards and rules and regulations, and I hope those standards and rules and regulations will be maintained till the Lord Jesus Christ comes back to this earth. I hope so, and I think they will. Well, anyway, we were up in this school, and this girl who lived a beautiful Christian life, a separated life, and yet everybody loved her. She was human and attractive and sweet, and the boys were all crazy about her. But she didn't run around to the wild parties. So the principal said just before school closed, somebody came and said, "Ann, now listen, we're going to have a little party tonight. I want you to come go along with us." Well, she said, "I'm sorry, but I can't go. I know the kind of parties you folks have, and I'm just not going." And said, "Now, come on, Ann. Listen, we all crazy about you. You're a president of the student body. And you never do go with us to any of our parties." She said, "Well, you ought to have the right kind of parties. You know, I don't smoke and drink and do some things that you young folks do, and I just don't want to go. I think a great deal of you. And of course, I'm not sitting in judgment on you, but I'm going to maintain my standards all right." And they just kept talking. Said, "Now listen, Ann, we'll be nice. Now you come on and go with us." She studied a minute. She said, "All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. Now I'll go this one time." So she ran home and fixed up. The car came by all filled up with young people. Happy young people they were. And they went out to this roadhouse in the country it was. Not supposed to be exactly the usual roadhouse, but it was. So they got in there and they smoked and had some food. And some of them drank some cocktails. And wouldn't drink, of course. They got through and started back home in the car. And the fellow running the car had 2 or 3 drinks, 2 or 3 cocktails, and went to his head, and he wrecked the car. And 2 or 3 of them were killed. And he said Ann was not killed. But oh, he said it would have been far better if she had been killed. He said, you never saw such a face as that girl has. She was the most beautiful creature that eyes ever looked at. And now she's so horribly mangled. They've tried every way in the world, her face all crushed in, and said the most terrible looking, broken human being you ever looked at. And the strange thing is the doctor says she'll probably live a usual span of life. And there's nothing they can do. She doesn't leave the house. She's in bed most of the time. And said, I went over to see her, and I stood there and tears ran down my face. He said, Dr. Jones, you can't imagine how that girl looks. Well, as he told me, I had a little sob come into my throat, and I said to myself, isn't that terrible? Now, that girl sacrificed all her future on the altar of one little party, on the altar of the immediate. She broke over one dime just once. And that one little party, because she got a little weak and wasn't strong enough to stand up and say, no, I will not, because I know where you young folks go. She just wanted to be nice and sweet, and she broke over and went. And now her life's ruined. Say, listen, she's one of many. The world is filled with young people that sacrifice all their future on the altar of some moment of convenience just to go along with the crowd. And some of you listening to me now may be guilty of that very thing. You're crazy. You're crazy, that's all. The idea of your sacrificing the years that are ahead of you for the pleasures of a night, for one little moment of pleasure, giving up everything that's good and noble and decent, and taking the chances with all the years that lie ahead. I'll let you in on a little secret. As I've gone up and down the land in my evangelistic work for many years, and I've had many experiences, and as this is being recorded, I've preached to more people than any man in the world, face to face, not over the radio. Some men have had larger radio audiences than I've had. But face to face, I've spoken to more people than a living man. And I've had women along in years to come to me, their heads gray 20 years too soon, and their eyes filled with sorrow, and with tears in their throat, they said, Dr. Jones, I want to talk to you. There's something in my life if I could just forget. All my happiness through the years has been wiped out, but because I can't forget one little weak moment, one wayward step. I've had men to say that to me, and they look back behind them, haunted by bitter memories, memories that they'd like to forget and can't forget, and they sacrificed everything, all their happiness, all their future years, on the altar of a little moment, on the altar of the immediate. Say, listen, let's think of life not in the terms of just today, but in the terms of all the tomorrows, all the tomorrows. The pages of the tomorrows that are clean. Let's write a clean record. Listen, don't think of just life for today. Eat, drink, and be merry. Tomorrow you may die, but if you do die tomorrow, die decent. You know there's something beyond death. This life isn't old. Away out beyond the grave and beyond the shroud, beyond the coffin, and beyond the last human breath, there stretches the eternity. Listen just a minute. Don't sacrifice it. If you do die tomorrow, die right. What can the little momentary sinful pleasure of the day do with you tomorrow? If you do die, die right. I knew a man who was all involved in sin, and the devil tried to tempt him. He tried to extricate himself. And he appealed to a friend of mine. He said, please help me. I'm going to die, the doctor says. Doctor says I can live only 6 months. Please help me die decent. Listen, live right. Live right if the stars fall. Keep up your standards. Trust Jesus Christ. Live a Christian life. Be faithful. And don't sacrifice the future years or the cycles of eternity on the altar of the momentary things, the momentary pleasures that so many people are running after today. God help us to be faithful.